Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You are now listening to Renewed Mind Revolution podcast with your host, Michelle Cook Hall. Please begin to take that good deep breath as we begin to refresh, recharge, and reset. Let's go. Hello, and welcome you guys. Welcome once again to Renewed Mind Revolution podcast with your host, Michelle Cook Hall. Look, first I want to take this first minute just to say thank you. Thank you guys so much for your love. Thank you so much for your support. I do get feedback, and I appreciate it so much when you have taken the time to tell me that you have found something in this podcast that has helped you in some type of way or other. And so I really appreciate that very much. I also want to encourage you guys to follow me on social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, and also Twitter. Just look me up, Michelle Cook Hall, and you will find me. And also, if you want to know more about what I am doing, please go over to my website. It is simply www.michelle with two L's, the letter C, hall.com. Once again, it's Michelle with two L's. It's chall.com. Now listen, I want to get right into it because as usual, I do not want to take up all of your time, but I do want to share something with you that I kind of thought about this week. And I felt that it would be something that can help somebody today. And it's a very simple message. It's nothing deep. It's nothing that you have to pull out a book for, a dictionary, or anything to look up anything that I'm saying. This is just straight and simple, and it makes so much sense for all of us, okay? I'm giving this to you because I feel like sometimes we just need to be reminded of this, and I know this because I've had to remind myself of this over and over again. And it's simply give yourself a break, okay? Give yourself a break. We have so many outside forces that are trying to constantly tell us that we're not enough, that we have not done enough, we are not making enough, we're not good enough. We have not made the best choices. I mean, it's just so much of, we have not lost enough weight. How about this? You have not gained enough weight. How about you didn't go to the right school? How about you didn't, get the right job? How about you're not making, enough money? You're not making the most of your life. You are constantly surrounded by, even if people are not directly saying it, society, our shows, our movies, our commercials, they are all reminding you and I of the fact that, you're not, quote, quote, enough. This is not what I'm saying. This is not what I believe at all. But this is the society that we live in. So therefore, you begin to create and develop people who are never satisfied. Hear me again. You are creating and developing people who are never satisfied. And so I want today just to tell you to give yourself a break. Stop comparing yourself to other individuals. Stop comparing yourselves to other people's circumstances and situations, because once again, I would say this always, we really do not know what people go through to get to where they are. A lot of times we see the highlights, and we sometimes, just kind of put it together assuming that is the sum of their story, but it's not. They show you what you need to see or what they are willing to reveal to you. So we really don't know the struggles. We really don't know the low points and the down moments of people. We only see the highlights of their lives. So we can't compare ourselves to other people. I say that a lot because we do that a lot. We cannot compare ourselves to other people. Other relationships, don't compare yourself. Don't compare your relationship to somebody else's relationship. It's an awful thing to do. It's the worst thing you just about can do in your relationship is say, look what this person does for this person. Look what this person does for this person. You don't do that for me. I mean, you really have no idea what people go through, behind the closed doors in their own homes. So it's the fact that we have to realize that you are who you are. I am who I am. We are uniquely designed to be who we are. I said last time that, people might attempt to, mimic you, but they cannot duplicate you. They just can't. It's something always unique about you. You're special. And so it's important because you are special, because you are a perfect little gift. You're uniquely designed for this moment and this time in which we're living in, that you don't compare yourself to other people's journeys. All of our journeys are different. They are similar in so many ways, but they are different in many more ways. Can I say that? Can I say that again? They might be similar in so many ways, but they're different in many more ways. And that's just a fact. That is an absolute fact. And so you can live a little while and see that. Talk to some people and hear that and know that to be accurate and true. Even though you might think, wow, we seem as if we might have the same things in common. You begin to have a conversation. You begin to dig deep and see how different you are. I mean, I have really thought I knew people, sat down and really began to talk to them and see that they were the total opposite of what I thought in regards to their history, what they've been through, their experiences, just things I never would have thought, just because they showed me what I needed to see and what other people needed to see, or what they were willing to share, which is fair. Which is absolutely fair. Nobody needs to lay out their entire life for other people. You don't have to do that. But my point is, because we only see a glimpse, the highlights, we assume we know everything, and then we begin to compare. So give yourself a break today. I had the awesome opportunity of meeting someone this week and listening. It was not arranged. It was just an encounter that happened because, it happens like that, right? Where you're in a particular place at a particular time, someone else comes, they begin to share and talk, and you might not even, really plan to begin to share and to help or listen, be that ear, but you just end up being that. And so I had one of those moments this week, and just to hear somebody, say that, for a long period of time, they kind of bounced around from career to career to career to career, changing and not really knowing where they fit in. But now what they're doing now, they feel very comfortable. And, without me knowing, I kind of confirmed with them that it is absolutely okay to continue for your own sake, to find what is best for you. You can't give up on you. Other people, they were saying, look down upon it. And I said, oh yeah, people will. They're going to look down upon it. They're going to say, you're unsure, you need to bring it together. But the only thing that, to me, is it's a bad thing. It's when you quit. It's when you just stop looking. When you stop searching. When you stop trying. That's the bad thing. That's the problem that I have. But if you're forever, in a position where you're trying to grow, you're trying to, learn a new craft, it's awesome to me. I absolutely love hearing stories of, people who are in their 60s and 70s go and get the degree that they never got, People say, and I've heard people say, well, what's the point of that? What can they do with that? Well, that's their personal goal. Come on. That's their personal goal. They did that for themselves. They did that for the younger generation that's coming up behind them, to show them, if I can do it at this age, you can do it too. And sometimes people don't understand that because their motives are different. They're moved by different reasons. And so they can't really necessarily understand that concept of a person, just trying to better themselves, just trying to find their niche in life. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I absolutely appreciate individuals who say, well, this is not for me. I cannot see myself doing this another 20 years. I really need to move and find something that is gratifying, that I don't feel like sucking my life away, that I'm, contented with. Sometimes you do what you have to do, but in the meantime, it doesn't mean that you cannot still search for, what's going to bring you a gratification, a fulfillment of a life goal, a fulfillment of a life purpose, right? So it doesn't mean that you put that to the side to do, other things. It doesn't mean that. Sometimes we have to find a way to balance. If you're fortunate to be able to still take care of yourself and follow your purpose, follow your dreams, and find your niche, that's awesome. But sometimes, it's not easy to do both. And you have to find a balance so that you don't give up on you. Don't give up on your purpose. You don't give up on your dreams. But I just really wanted to emphasize to you today to, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't give up on yourself. Don't allow other people and their impressions of what life is supposed to be, regarding you, affect you. Because sometimes it seems like people have a perfect little storyline as to what your life or my life should be. And what's amazing is that most of the time those same people's life is in pure chaos. But they can tell you what you should be doing and how you should, be handling your life and your situations and your relationships and whatever. But their life is not ideal either, right? So the thing is, we cannot give people that much power, that much credit over ourselves. We have to make sure that we are being honest and true to ourselves. So the first thing you do is to make sure that you're not being hard on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. If you make mistakes, we make mistakes. We're not perfect. We're human. We're human. And so it's okay to learn. We don't want to just constantly make mistakes and not learn. If I'm gonna drop the ball, I'm gonna learn next time how to make sure that doesn't happen. So we want to learn from our lessons. We want to make sure that we're telling ourselves, you know what? I did the best that I could. I didn't figure it out that time. But when I come back around, I'm going to make sure that I pay attention and I figure it out and I learn, next time. We might be in a position where, we feel like, well, I should really be in when I was younger, I really thought that by this time I would be in a different place. We hear that a lot, I thought that, life would be different, but life really turned out to be the totally opposite of what I thought I would be right now. And so sometimes people stay there. They stay in that mindset. They stay in that place. And believe it or not, it begins to deteriorate them internally. And whatever happens internally, we already know it begins to manifest physically on the outside. So what we want to do is make sure that you say, hey, yeah, I made this mistake. Yes, I went this route, even though I know I should have went this route. But what can I do from this point? I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm not going to stay in this funk. I'm not going to stay in this place, this place of despair. Come on, somebody. I'm not going to stay in this place of despair. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn from this place that I'm in, and I'm going to figure out now, what do I do next? Where do I see myself in the next 5 years? That's a question that I'm not even saying 10 years. I'm saying 5 years. That's a question that, we all should be able to answer, for ourselves. That just means that you have hope. That means that you have goals. You have, agenda. That, it doesn't always work out the way we want because life is forever throwing things our way. But it means that you have a goal. It means that you have an agenda. It means that you have purpose still. When you can say, in 5 years, this is what I plan. When I started off in the year 2020, nobody knew what was going to happen. None of us knew the extent of what 2020 was going to bring for us. Nobody knew that, right? So one of the things that I did was I took something that I had pushed aside for years because I was being a mom and I was taking care of all these other responsibilities. I took the opportunity because now my children are much older and two of them are self-sufficient at this point, pretty much. Only have one left. I said this would be the perfect opportunity for me to go after one of my goals. Go after one of my goals on my agenda. Took that time and began starting towards my master's in theology, right? And so I didn't allow the time to waste because I still had this always in the back of my head. Like for years, I always knew that this is what I wanted to do. I looked into it every now and then. Nothing quite seemed right, right? But I didn't dismiss my desire. I did not dismiss my goal. I did not dismiss it at all. It was just always in the back of my mind that at some point I will go back and get my master's. And so over time, we do get sidetracked from other things in our lives. But as long as you still remember, you have that, this is what I want to do. And then here comes the perfect timing for whatever it is that you need to do. This is about not giving yourself a hard time. This is about, once again, giving yourself some credit. Now, although the ideal for me would have been to do this like maybe 10 years ago, right? Perfect. Maybe 15 years ago, to be honest. But the fact that I am doing it does not take away the fact that I'm doing it later than what I really would have intentionally wanted it to be done. Okay? I can't say to myself, oh, that's awful that, you're doing it at this age. You should have been able to do it. No. See, that takes away from the power of what I'm doing. That takes away from the power of what I'm doing. What I'm doing is executing a purpose. That's executing one of my dreams and one of my goals. Okay? So I would not be benefiting myself if I decide to do that. If I decide to snatch away the power of what I'm doing by saying, oh, it's unfortunate that you couldn't do that earlier. I won't do that. And sometimes we do that. Sometimes we say, well, it would have been much better if I would have done this, 10 years ago. If I would have done this 5 years ago. I want to get married. Somebody's saying, I want to get married. But now I'm in my mid-30s. I'm almost, I'm close to 40. It would have been really nice if I could have gotten married in my 20s, okay? But the reality of it is maybe you weren't ready in your 20s. Maybe I wasn't ready to pursue my master's in my 20s or, in my early 30s. Maybe I wasn't ready. I thought I was. I realized with life, there's a lot of things that I thought I was ready for and that I thought I really wanted. And then over time, when time passed, I realized, I said, oh God, thank you so much for not giving me that. Come on, let's be honest. Now, unless you're just, a perfect person, then maybe you can't relate to this. But there have been many moments that I said to myself, I'm so grateful that God did not give me that. That I thought that I wanted. And that I thought that I needed. But I did not need that headache. Come on, somebody. I did not need that headache. It was not time for that, okay? And sometimes it's just not meant to be altogether. So sometimes we need to just give ourselves a break and realize that life is full of choices. We make the best choice that we can make at that particular time. If we made a poor choice at that particular time, we can learn from that poor choice and we move forward. Life is about moving forward. It's not about sitting here and just kind of crying and willowing in our mess. It's about, okay, I messed up. Let me get up and let me move on. I've said to you guys 1,000 times that one of the lessons that, I teach my kids, and I just shared this with them today because for some reason, while I'm trying to be very comfortable in my backyard, they all decide to surround me and start chit-chatting. So whenever they do that, they already know, here I come with my life lesson, right? Because I want them to pursue their goals. I want them to pursue their purpose, and I want them to be happy, healthy, and strong individuals, right? So when they were all sitting around me, the first thing I said, was some of the things that I see them not completing, and how unfortunate that is, because once again, one of my rules are, the only thing that you can get back is time. So we don't waste time. We don't. We try, to live, our lives, with no regrets. Because you make your choices, you make your mistakes, but we get up and we move on. We don't wallow in them. We just keep on going. So that's a life with no regrets. We just do what we need to do. We learn from our mistakes and we go on. And so, one of my things is that I just do not want to see them, waste their time. And I've been teaching them this for forever. And I just kind of chisel it in them because, when you're in your 20s, you kind of think that, you have all this time, and you just kind of think, I get to 25, it sounds really cute. And then you be like, okay, when I get to my 30s, I'm grown. You just kind of say these things. But in the meantime, your life is just kind of going on, and you're getting older and older and older and older. And you realize, wow, I'm at this age now. I've done this and this in my 20s and this in my 30s and my 40s. And so life catches up with you. And so it's important that you just don't sit around wasting life, wasting your time. You want to make sure that you are, even listen to this podcast, it's not wasteful because you're learning. When I turn on a podcast and it's a self-help or empowering podcast or teaching me, something about mental health or anything like that, I really feel like this is good time. This is something productive versus me just, sitting around watching TV and not learning anything, but kind of just being entertained, which is a time for that as well. But there is a time where you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health. So, you guys know I share with you that I took a whole month. Now it's a month and a half, to be honest, where I focused in on my health. And I made sure I hit every appointment that I missed last year and just did a whole workup for myself. Because once again, we're focusing on our physical, our mental, and our emotional health. So all these things are important. If my emotional health is off, then my physical health will be affected. If my mental health is off, my physical health will be affected. If my physical health is off, it can definitely affect my mental and my emotional health. They are all intertwined, right? They're all intertwined. So, we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in all these areas, And so if you go into the, doctor for your physicals, I always encourage people, if you're dealing with issues that are straining you, emotionally or mentally, you need to reach out to someone that you can trust. Reach out to a healthcare professional. Reach out to a therapist. Whatever it is that you believe in, that you can trust, you need to do that. I'm so glad now that we're living in a society where people are much more accepting of people receiving services and help that they need, to just talk to people and share whatever it is that they're thinking and whatever there is that they have to work through. There is so much trauma. I don't want to get off our topic, but there's so much trauma that people experience, and sometimes they have no idea what that trauma has done to them as an adult. Okay? So when they begin to speak to a professional is able to help pull that out, and they're able to see, wow, this is why I do this. That's exactly what happens. It kind of tells, them, this is why I behave this way. This is why I think this way. This is why I have this bad habit, because it's based upon something that has been taught to you or something that you've experienced, and sometimes people suppress it. So it is okay. It is okay to get help. Let me emphasize that again. Please get help. It's nothing shameful. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It does not matter what your culture beliefs are in regards to getting help. You can go to a spiritual leader. You can go to whoever you trust to hear you, and that will give you, in your experience and an opinion, helpful guidance. It's, sometimes people just need to share. They just need to talk and get it out, and that's fine. So what my point is, you just can't keep things bottled up. You just can't keep it bottled up. You have to release it. People, what happens when we have a pot that is filled up with pressure? I have a pressure cooker, and what I do is I press everything. Press the button that says pressure cooker the time that I want, and everything is lifted up. But when it's time for me to open up my pressure cooker top, it will only open up once that pressure has been released. It's going to only open up once that pressure has been released. So sometimes we just need to release. We just need to get it off of our chest, get it off of our hearts. Sometimes we have to just say to people that have hurt us, I forgive you. They might say, I don't even know what you're talking about. It doesn't matter. I forgive you. I forgive you for me. And even if you can't get to that person, if you open up your mouth and just say, I forgive this person for what they've done to me, for what they said to me, for the way they made me feel. Sometimes that is like a breakthrough for you to just let go. They hurt you. They spoke bad about you, and you're carrying that on your shoulders, and you're carrying that into your life. And you're wondering why you're not being successful or productive, because you're carrying so much weight, so much baggage. But somebody need to open up their mouth and just say, listen, I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you for the betrayal. I forgive you for the hurt. I forgive you for the words. I forgive you for the lies. I forgive you for, intentionally hurting me. I forgive you for, hurting me and not even knowing that you were hurting me. I forgive you. I forgive you for isolating me when I needed help. Open up your mouth and begin to say, I just forgive you. I forgive you. Some people are dealing with some very deep, dark secrets and pain, and they need just to say, I forgive you for what you've done to me. I forgive what you've done to my child. I forgive what you've done to my family. I forgive you. Begin to just let that go. Open up your mouth and just let it go. I remember it was a time in my life that I had to do that. I had to just let go and begin to just ask and say, I forgive. I forgive. Guess why? Because I want to be forgiven for the mistakes that I made. So I want to make sure that I'm not allowing myself to be tied to my pain. This is good stuff. Hear me clearly. When you're holding on to all that hurt, all that pain, all that stuff that happened in your past, it's like you're chained up to it. You're chained to that pain. And the only way for you to be free from that pain is to just let it go and be free from it and forgive and let it go. Like you really do. You have to really sometimes verbalize that, because we say, it don't bother me anymore. I let that go. But then every time they come in that room, your whole body change, everything about you begin to just crawl in. Like, you want to shrivel up because you just got so much animosity towards them. And if you were truly free from them, then you wouldn't carry so much animosity. So I want to make sure that, you're not carrying that into your new. You're not carrying that into your new. But you're truly being free. You're being free from the pain, the hurt, and the betrayal. Listen, I came on to you, on today to share with you guys something very important to me. And I went a little longer than I wanted to go because I really want to keep this one nice and short. But I want you to give yourselves a break. That's number one. Give yourselves a break. You're doing great. You're doing awesome. You're doing the best that you can. So every now and then, encourage yourself. Say, good job. Well done. Look at you. You did that. You conquered that. So give yourself kudos every now and then. And then I wanted to tell you guys to make sure that you are breaking the chain of your pain. Breaking your chain of your pain by forgiving. Breaking the chain of your pain by forgiving. It's not always easy. It is not, but it's so necessary. And it's going to free up some space in your life for more of the better that is coming to you. God bless you guys so much. I love you. But most importantly, God loves you more. You have been listening to Renewed Mind Revolution Podcast with your host, Michelle Cookall. God bless.